The Zodiac killer is still one of the coldest unsolved cases in American crime because he did not just attack people, he turned fear itself into part of the crime. The case began in Northern California in the late 1960s, when young couples were attacked in lonely places that felt safe until they suddenly were not. On December 20th, 1968, teenagers David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were shot on Lake Herman Road near Benicia. Police did not yet know they were looking at the beginning of a much larger nightmare, because the scene looked like a brutal but isolated double murder. Then, on July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Magot were shot while sitting in a car at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Ferrin died from her wounds, but Magot survived long enough to describe the attacker and the car he drove. Not long after that shooting, a man called police and calmly reported the crime, and he also claimed responsibility for the earlier murders. A few weeks later, newspapers received letters from someone who said he was the killer, and each letter included part of a coded message. He demanded that the letters be printed, and he threatened more violence if they were ignored. The code, now called the 408 cipher, was solved by schoolteachers Donald and Betty Harden. Its message was rambling and disturbing, and it spoke about killing people and collecting slaves for the afterlife. What truly changed the case was not only the violence, but the way the killer seemed to enjoy performing for the public. He even gave himself a name when he wrote, "This is the Zodiac speaking," and from that moment, the murders became a national obsession. On September 27, 1969, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were at Lake Berryessa when a hooded man approached them wearing a black executioner-style costume with a crossed circle symbol on the chest. He tied them up and stabbed them, then walked to Hartnell's car and wrote dates of earlier attacks on the door. Shepard later died from her injuries, but Hartnell survived and gave police one of the strangest witness accounts in modern crime history. Less than 2 weeks later, on October 11th, taxi driver Paul Stein picked up a passenger in San Francisco and was shot in the head. This time, the killer was seen by witnesses, and police almost caught him after a radio dispatch mistakenly described the suspect as a black man instead of a white man. That mistake may have allowed the Zodiac to walk away into the night, even while officers searched nearby streets. The letters kept coming, and some included pieces of Stein's bloody shirt as proof that the writer was real. He sent more ciphers, strange threats, and bizarre claims, including a letter in 1970 that hinted about a bomb. One message contained a 13-symbol code that still has never been solved with certainty. Another, the famous 340 cipher, stayed unread for more than 50 years before a team cracked it in 2020. Even that solution did not reveal his name, and it mostly showed the same cruel need for control and attention. Over the years, police looked at many suspects, but the most famous was Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester who denied being the killer. Some details seemed to point toward him, but fingerprints, handwriting, and later DNA work never produced the kind of proof investigators needed. Different police departments also handled different scenes, and that meant the investigation often moved in pieces instead of as one clean hunt. Years later, improved forensic testing and renewed public interest still failed to produce the answer people expected science to give them. What makes this case endure is not only the body count, but the way the Zodiac played with the weakness of every system around him. He used distance, panic, bad communication, and media attention like weapons, and he understood that fear spreads faster than facts. Some investigators believe he committed only the confirmed attacks, while others think he took credit for crimes he never committed just to look bigger than life. That uncertainty is part of what keeps the case alive, because nobody can cleanly separate the man from the myth he built around himself. More than half a century later, the letters, the symbols, and the missed chances still leave the same dark question behind. Was the Zodiac a single careful predator, or a killer who survived because chaos kept protecting him? Follow for more dark investigations that still refuse to give up their secrets.